Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war, because we know the second coming has tons of signs, but the rapture of the church is signless. So if we can look at what happens right after the rapture, we can see how close we are, because gosh, things happened this last week. Things happened the last 2 weeks that literally are complete signs and a setup for what's going to happen right after the church leaves. So let's pick up with what's happened. So many things have happened in Israel. And the reason why we get into this is, you see the finish line, you run faster, not slower. The teaching on the coming of the Lord is not an escape theology, it's a hustle theology. I mean, tell a quarterback at the end of the game not to look at the play clock. No, you look at the play clock because the plays are so crucial because time is so short. And remember, Jesus rebuked the crowd. He said, hey, you can tell what the weather's going to be, but you don't know your hour of visitation. So it bothered him that they didn't know their hour of their visitation. So he wants us to know. So we approach these things to look at how close we are so that we do what we're called to do in a very short period of time, because Jesus is coming so soon. Wow, around Israel, so many things keep happening with Iran. Specifically, this is the big one. A couple days ago, there was a massive explosion right outside of Tehran. The underground missile production plant was blown up where nuclear missiles are made. I mean, it's amazing how Iran was getting really close to making one, so Israel had to preemptively do this. It's kind of wild, though. They did it with a cyber attack. They said the fireball was over the whole entire city of Tehran. It was so big that in Shiraz, Iran, it knocked out the power for half of a whole city. So Israel had to do that because Iran was bent on basically destroying and wiping Israel off the map. Because of that, you've had so many more airstrikes. You had Israel do another airstrike on the border of Syria and Iraq, right where the Euphrates River is. I mean, it's crazy. Took out Iranian militiamen. Because of that, I mean, Israel's having to so preemptively strike. Even last week, I didn't get into it, Iran sent 8 drones into Saudi Arabia with bombs and ballistic missiles way deep into Saudi Arabia and fired on them. And there's been no retaliation of that. But Israel is continually doing airstrike after airstrike after airstrike to stop the accumulation of missiles to get to Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah just basically came out even this last week saying, we're going to work with Iran and we're going to annihilate Israel. Crazy to have these verbiages, and there's not much press about it. It's so crazy. So that's happening. In the midst of that, you got Israel getting ready to announce this annexation. It was supposed to be July 1st. Boy, there's so much going on about that. I mean, you have the BDS movement here in America, young college students that are planning basically big riots in Chicago, San Diego, Los Angeles, Brooklyn, other cities to come against, they call it the Day of Rage, to come against Israel for annexing that land. The amazing thing is about the annexation of the land, remember it's Judea and Samaria, so much is happening behind the scenes with that right now. It looks like it's not going to happen on July 1st, but the thing about it, it's not really annexing the land. Israel already got the land in the 1967 war, so much is happening about it. You got the Palestinians came out yesterday, we're ready to negotiate with Israel. You got Abbas saying he's going to discontinue the Palestinian Authority. You have Israel's Mossad meeting with Jordan about the whole thing. You have Turkey meeting with Putin and Assad about many things that are going on. This was the crazy thing about Turkey the last couple of days. I want to see if I can get this out as clear as I possibly can. I'm looking at the writers from the Jerusalem Post, and the scenario that they posted was all the different places that Turkey is in military operations all over the Middle East, completely surrounding Israel. He said, these are secular writers, he said it's as though Turkey's setting up itself to align itself with Iran to annihilate and attack Israel. The verbiage was almost quoting from the book of Ezekiel. So, man, it's interesting to see all the players take their positions because many things keep happening. You just got bizarre stuff happening. I mean, so obviously the coronavirus is still going on. That'd be a birth pain for what we call in Matthew 24, like a woman going into contractions. You had 170 people struck by lightning in India a couple days ago. That alone is just beyond bizarre. You have India having to set up anti-aircraft missile batteries because of China and them going back and forth. That's crazy. So I don't even get into all the locust stuff. I don't even get into all the other stuff that keeps happening. But I mean, you got amazing natural things happening along with earthquakes, along with the setup for the Ezekiel 38 war. And I wish it would behoove me to show you a map and show you how Iran continually keeps bringing down those convoys. We were talking about it today. I believe that you're going to wake up and you're going to see that Damascus is going to be removed from being a city, because Israel took out another convoy going into Damascus where they retrofit those missiles with a higher advanced guidance system. So all this is happening. You had missiles from Gaza coming over. The big push, though, is this Judea and Samaria. I think the amazing thing is this going to lead up to another push that's going to literally go into the tribulation period. I think we're a little ways away from it, but man, it's a setup for it, because you're watching all the players act exactly like they would act during that tribulation period. So we're so blessed. Amazing. I mean, it's hard to get into all of it because it's just document after document after document. But if you looked at what they're getting ready for, it's literally Israel pushing for what it's supposed to do. And you're seeing the EU, you're seeing the UN, and you're seeing Russia and other nations push against Israel so hard to not get what it's supposed to have. And that's basically what you're going to see the greatest battle ever over, and that's the Battle of Armageddon. So what do? We go to the Scriptures. The Scripture is so blatant, it's so clear and so concise. England likes it when I talk about the Scripture. The signs are so blatant and so radical and so easy to understand. Number one, Israel made a nation. Number two, Jerusalem being won back. Jesus said the generation that sees those two events will not pass away till all is fulfilled. But then you got the Hebrew language restored. You got the Ethiopian Jews brought back. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have the Temple Mount Institute that's ready to start having sacrifices. You have all these different things happening. You got foxes showing up on the Temple Mount this last year. Amazing. Lamentations 5:18. You got fish showing up in the Dead Sea. That's wild. 2,500 years ago that was prophesied. When did that happen? Last year in 2019. You got the ritual baths around the Temple Mount filling up with water. You had the Sea of Galilee filling up with water. You had Rabbi Itzhak Kaduri. Jesus appeared to him. He got born again. A year later, his letter came out saying he'd come to know Jesus as the Messiah. He prophesied in one of his writings in 2005 that Israel will be ruled by two Benjamins at the coming of the Messiah. You got Benjamin Netanyahu and Benjamin Gantz sharing rulership right now because they couldn't form a government. So all these things are happening. There's many more. You got men will be lovers themselves. You got selfie sticks. You got 172 different species of predatory birds showing up in the land of Israel, which is remarkable. You have the cleanup crew for the Ezekiel 38 war. 7 years later at the Battle of Armageddon, God calls on the fowl of the air to come clean the land up again. So many things that are so right in front of us and so point to his return. It's remarkable to have the technology. There's more verses written about what it would look like than anything in the Bible. So we would have a heads up. We'd know. And that's what Jesus said. When you see these things, lift up your heads. The whole purpose of this, he loves you so much. He wants you excited. He wants you expectant. It's amazing how his love is so radiant to give us all this info so that we know how close we are. So then you go from signs to signals. You know, we had the blood red moons a few years ago on Passover and Tabernacles. That's amazing. I mean, you have 4 in a row. That's called a tetrad. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation, and 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion, when God sent Christopher Columbus, sailed the ocean blue in 1492, raised up a safe harbor for the Jews, the United States of America. Amazing. So that in itself is remarkable. Then you had the Bethlehem star last year, first time in 2,000 years. The birth of Jesus, the constellation was Virgo. This last year it was Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So remarkable to have tangible physical signs like that. Then you had Mercury do a flyby of the sun. Happens 5 times in a century, went down directly over the Temple Mount at sundown. Then you had the moon formed a sickle, the planets formed a sickle. Orion changed his instrument to hammer. You have hammer and sickle on the same day. This one's really the crazy one. President Trump and Vice President Pence, we know that the coming of the Lord will be on Feast of Trumpets. You say the president's name and the vice president's name, you're saying the coming of the Lord. Trump, Pence, amazing. So what do? We help our local church, help our local pastor. This is it. You accelerate as you see the finish line. Jesus is just about to come. I would hope you'd be kinder, more merciful. Let the ministry of Jesus flow through you. Let him look through your eyes. Let him minister through your hands. and be Jesus to every person you come in contact with, because this is it. I know I keep saying we have a little bit of time, but it's sure not much. What a blessing to know how close we are, so that with great joy, great expectation, we can accelerate to do the will of God and harvest as many souls as we can right here before the coming of the Lord. The most exciting times ever. Horrible for the world, scary for the world, but wonderful for the church. There is no bad news for the church. How cool we get to see him face to face so soon. Have a blessed week. We'll come back next week and look at what happens all around Israel. Many things keep happening that are just a surprise almost. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.
One love to overshadow.